Our next speaker is Alex Palantzas from the New York Bitcoin Center.
Hello, everybody. My name is Alex Palantzas, and this is Ben Young. We're here with the Bitcoin Center in New York City. We bring in a message from our founder, Nick Spanos. We have two events every week, every Monday and every Thursday at 6 p.m. for all Bitcoin enthusiasts, early adopters as newcomers. You can come and listen to, we have usually guest speakers, and you can also network with potential buyers and sellers and do person-to-person digital currency trading. We also have a new plan for an incubator. We incubated a couple of startups last year, and this year we have about 9 startups that are Bitcoin and blockchain related. So if you have a startup and if you're interested in being incubated, get in touch with us. We have a very, very new and good plan for you. So the topic of me today is to talk a little bit about the Austrian School of Economics. We hear a lot of things about Bitcoin, how it's going to disrupt the financial system. We hear a lot about the technology side. We hear a lot about trading. But the idea and the concept of decentralization is much older than Bitcoin. It's actually tied to human existence and human civilization. And it goes back to the appearance of language. Language, as it is a price system, is a decentralized way of communicating. We cannot have one person create his or her own language, and that language will have no value if only one person would use it. The same thing goes for currencies. So people needed to exchange the excess of their output. People had different needs and different purposes. So they came up with the concept of a currency. They started bartering, and then after a while, a very commonly accepted commodity became a currency accepted by most people. Aristotle observed that the best form of a currency is when it's consistent, convenient, divisible, durable, and valuable. And it came down about 26, 27 centuries ago that precious metals, especially gold, had all these 5 qualities and were commonly accepted worldwide. What happened about a century ago is that people fell in for the idea of centralization and entrusted the issuance of their currency to central and monopolistic institutions that moved away from the concept of scarcity. For a currency to be valuable, it has to be scarce. So we saw that moving away from that concept created a lot of problems, created the financial crisis of the 1930s, helped fund long and painful wars, and it's also responsible for the big debt of small countries like my native Greece. What does the Austrian school do? The Austrian school does, when it studies economics, it doesn't build these complex models like domestic stochastic general equilibrium models that put some variables that try to predict human action. The Austrian School of Economics focuses on each human and each individual separately. They all have a different purpose, and nobody knows when another person wants to save. So the Austrian school comes with a concept of time preference, which is when we save and when we don't, and distinguishes between saving and investing. The problem is that in the current system, because we have the issuance of currencies, centralized currencies, is that we cannot save. We can only invest in an asset, in shares in the stock market, in bonds, which is future tax revenue, and hope and pray that we will exit before the bubble bursts. Most people believe that buying bonds, like sovereign bonds, is saving because a local government guarantees the payoff of these bonds. Unfortunately for these people, many governments don't keep their promise, or when they have to choose between taxing excessively their subjects, like in the case of Argentina, they prefer not to pay off the bondholders, and these people lose their money. I don't need to speak extensively about the stock market bubble. We've seen a lot of bubbles, or the real estate bubble. Mostly the reason of these bubbles happening is increase on the quantity of money is excessive, and it's been attracted, part of this increase, by certain asset classes or investment proposals that have nothing to do with the desirability or the scarcity of such things in the marketplace. So in the case of a decentralized capped digital currency, one can decide when they save at no risk other than holding that particular currency and be their own bank without being exposed to potential banking failures or in Ponzi schemes. Another concept that the Austrian school examines is what we call Gresham's law, which is basically talking about bad money driving out good money out of circulation. It's a very old concept. It's mentioned even in religious books, in the Torah. Aristophanes, an Athenian theatrical writer of ancient Athens, wrote about that too. He spoke against the Athenian government of debasing the currency, mixing gold with other metals that were not precious, in order to finance a war against Sparta. Eventually, Athens attacked Sparta and they lost the war. In later times, in the Roman times, they did the same thing. They debased their currency and they ended up with hyperinflation. So in the case of today, we see a lot of bad means of exchange. For example, bonds of countries that are not solvent, used as a means of exchange in what they call the secondary market. Several institutions buy these bonds, and this misleads the investors or the savers about putting their money there. And there is really no way to communicate that these bonds are not going to be paid, or these countries are insolvent, or when this is happening, it's too late. Bitcoin and the rest of the capped digital currencies can help bring back good, what we call honest money, because nobody has the obligation to pay somebody else or to tax somebody else for this means of exchange to retain their value. And then we come to the concept of the subjective theory of value. The Austrian school insists that value is only subjective, that value cannot be entrapped in a centralized way when some central authority places a price on an asset class. Unfortunately, this has nothing to do with the desires of people in the market. People in the market, they and only themselves can decide what is valuable to them and then use it as a means of exchange.